Hello, hello, hello. We have made it to the end of Ideas Have Legs by Peter Howard. Oh, I'm going to have to wipe my spectacles because they've gotten so steamed up with all the excitement. So yeah, just at the 2-week mark, it took us to read it. I think I might have kind of doubled up a day or two. Because it was more 14 days than 23, so there's 23 chapters in here. We're about to read number 23, the final chapter. So I'm not sure. I suspect there was a handful of you listening to this. I don't even know if you kept up with it. Honourable mentions to Heather and Peggy, who were the only people to take me up on communicating throughout the whole process. Don't be afraid to do so if you still want to. It's not too late. Say hello in the comments. There she is. And I have a feeling this isn't a long chapter, so you can relax. But a fitting finale. Now, Chapter 23, Once to Every Man, with the proviso I haven't read ahead on this, so if I fluff a few lines, try and forgive me. I don't intend to, though, if I can help it. So, we come to the end of our old journey, you and I together, and together we begin the new. We have never met before, and shall never part again. We can be numbered among the powerful of history. From this day we can march in the ranks of the swelling army of ordinary men and women whose destiny it is to make this nation and all nations greater. Britain is a land of the past and a land of the future too. There are so many things in her which touch the human heart to love. Both you and I, as we sit together and think of those things in that intimacy of the spirit which is ours, know parts of Britain, her sounds, her sights, her smells, which penetrate and stir the deepest corners of our nature. Perhaps it is memories of the waters of Britain, the slick shadows of trout in tumbling streams, the slow and thoughtful glide of deeper rivers among the pasture land, and above all the sea, girdle and glory of our land, multitudinous, savage, restless, cold and grey and green, through centuries our shield and a challenge to the men of Britain's breed and race. The sea which carried brave hearts to found an empire and offered sanctuary to the Pilgrim Fathers on their inspired voyage to build a new world. Perhaps it is the sound of laughter around a fireside, of country voices floating homeward across the field in summer dusk, when the last load of corn has been drawn into the stackyard, and a mist is rising from the water meadows, or the cough and whistle of wind in trees and around snug dwellings on a cold Christmas night. Maybe we remember and love the springtime valleys of white blossom furrowing the red earth of the west country, the grey moorland walls of the north with granite of the hillsides and the warm hearts of the people, the smooth rounded downlands of the south with stub-faced sheep and white cliffs, or the arable earth of East Anglia, the ploughland of old England, with red pole beef and Suffolk punches even, heaving across the fen, their breath jutting before them from their nostrils like twin trumpets in the frosty air. Maybe the thing which most catches our breath and heart is the subtle, simple smell of wood smoke on an autumn evening, that same smell which our island ancestors knew before the Romans came. And so, from generation to generation, all these things we inherit, you and I. And we inherit the green fields and thorn hedges and wild flowers, the treasures of the ages in literature and art, and above all the accumulated character and experience of a great people. All these things are ours by right of legacy and life, no matter what circumstances surround us now, no matter if we spend our days in service of the Crown, at home or overseas, amid the stir of cities, in buses, tubes and trains, in black coats and bowler hats, in the sweat and danger of coal mines, or the strain and clamour of factory, or office, or dock. These things we have inherited. History will record what we make of our inheritance, you and I. Many plan the future, but you and I live the future. We are the future. For you and I, ordinary men and women, fellow veterans of the shape of things to come, our frames dust and dirt and water, stirred with the same desires, wooed by the same temptations, borne forward by the same power, if we choose, have this distinctive contribution to make. We know the most precious secret of this and every generation, the secret which can remake the world. We possess the big idea enough to outmatch all other ideas, to mobilize the minds, hearts, and wills of millions to unity and action. Time is not on our side, unless we grasp it. Tradition is not on our side, unless we live and create it. God is not on our side, unless we listen and obey. History will be written about the choice you and I make today. It will be the most momentous choice in human history. For one thing is certain, we do stand on the threshold of a new age. A new age of some kind is about to be ushered in, with all the sweat and blood and agony of new creation. It can be God's idea of a new age. If not, it will be a new age of another kind, and we, the ordinary men of our nation, sitting in our chairs today, we alone, the citizens of destiny, decide. Once to every man and nation comes the moment to decide. Then it is the brave man chooses, while the coward stands aside, till the multitude makes virtue of the faith they had denied. And so endeth Ideas Have Legs by Peter Howard. It is the 12th of October, 2023. This was written in the closing years of the war. It was published in 1945. The world was in turmoil. Today, are we at the end of interwar years? How relevant is this, which I'm going to read again, not the whole book, this last part, and how coincidental is it that I end up reading this today, when so much of the world is at each other's throat? This may come across as dramatic, but it's from the heart. From mine to yours, from Peter Howard's to mine. Is this relevant to you? Once to every man and nation comes in the moment to decide. Then it is the brave man chooses, while the coward stands aside, till the multitude makes virtue of the faith they had denied. God rest you, Peter Howard. I believe most of your children, if not all, are still alive, and your wife passed away in 2005, Doe, your beloved Doe. So here's, what do they call it? Spoiler alert. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time, just a little bit, talking about this book and what we went through together, and why I liked it, and why I, starting this reading a book at bedtime, if you like, as a little experiment, reckon it wasn't a bad book to start with. So let's talk. We met this guy, Peter Howard. He was the quintessential somebody, or nobody, if you like, aspiring to be somebody. At heart, and I think, as you will have learnt throughout the book, this was, as we would say here, a good bloke, a good person at heart. Why was that? Because I think ultimately his conscience and his spiritual nature rang through in a great way, because when it dawned on him what it was all about, so to speak, purity, love, unselfishness, trustworthiness, all that stuff, when it really hit home to him, and there were some notes I had on this, the 4 absolutes, which were absolute honesty, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness, absolute love. When he kind of had his come to Jesus moment, it was so profound he wanted to share it. He wanted to share it with the world. And he wanted to tap into common humanity. So we see him in the 1930s, where he's on the way up. He's on his way. He's making it, to quote Peter Gabriel. I'm a bit of a muso. And make it big. And he does so by climbing that greasy pole in Fleet Street of political journalism. And on that journey, he does well out of it. Business is good. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He's got the material things in life. He's also enlightened by the fact that some of his colleagues seem to be paragons of virtue, but are quite immoral in their own way, be it in relationships, affairs or whatever, or business. So it's gnawing at him. But he doesn't, as I said, want to rock the boat. Business is good. He's a young man about town. He gets to know influential people, Lord Beaverbrook, Winston Churchill. He's becoming a pillar of the community. But he comes across the teachings, if you like, of this American guy called Frank Bookman, who I think was a Lutheran minister maybe. Worth checking him out online as well. And he has the realization that it's materialism is the, kind of the root of all, I won't even say evil, but of all distraction. It's having and wanting to be seen to have. He gets talking to a guy from this Oxford group, as it's known, or moral rearmament, as it subsequently becomes known. And he doesn't believe in God, and he says it to this guy. And this guy says, well, God exists. And it's more or less doubting Thomas moment. He says, well, if God exists, how do I get in touch with him? Prove it to me. And the guy suggests that Peter get some quiet time, away from all the chatter, and take out 4 sheets of A4 paper, and to write down where he stands on absolute love, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness. And what was the other one, Marco? Absolute honesty, purity, unselfishness, and absolute love, which apparently are the foundations for the Sermon on the Mount by our Lord Jesus Christ. By the way, this is a Christian in origin, but it embraces all faiths, as you'll find out. It still exists. It's not moral rearmament anymore. It's something else. You can go check it out. So it encapsulates the goodness and the commonality and the humanity in everybody. Still has his doubts, but he does find himself in that quiet place, and he does take out the 4 bits of paper, and he gets the answers. From God above, it would appear. And he doesn't claim a big bolt or flash of light, but the realization is that if he sticks to the path of these things, which is largely, by the way, not about being self-centered, but about being open to other people. You wouldn't believe I was fired from a Christian radio station, would you? Christianity and religion. Forget about Christianity. Religion, spirit, it goes a lot more than just this. It's within us all, I think. And he tapped into it. And he convinced him. He didn't convince himself. He was convinced that, yeah, God exists. Because if I follow this path, not just for me, but for the benefit of England, as he saw it, the benefit of the nation, he was going to be a success. Without all the bling. Without all the whatever it was way back then. So he sees the goodness in people, and he searches for the goodness in people. The evil exists in people, and the nastiness and all that stuff. But he broadcasts love. And in return, he gets love. And appreciation. Far more satisfying than anything materialist-wise, which comes to him anyway, ironically. Because if you give, you will get. He knocked, and the door was opened. I'm going to say no more. I found that book, in a place I stayed, an antiquated place, or historic, over 20 years ago. And that bit about the 4 pages had an effect on me, as did the opening of the book, when he communicates with no technology as such, as to how the hands writing and the eyes viewing the literature, how the hands writing reaching out can reach someone. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because as he puts it, someday we will all end up as dust and dirt in cities unknown to us. I found that really resonated with me, just the transience of everything. I don't know if I'm going to read another book to camera. I do have my own, The Man Who Chased Joggers, which took 2.5 years of my life, and is very radically different than this lovely Ideas of Legs. But I think ultimately it's about love and the heart as well, and just the touch of people. Good people are scarce. It's been a pleasure to read all this for you. Take care. May sound corny, 'cause I care. Comments are below. You can buy me a coffee if you want on the PayPal. I don't blame you. Times are hard. Won't you take care? Thanks again for riding shotgun with me.